You're listening to the UoR Music Podcast. Hello and welcome to the UoR Music Podcast. I'm James Smith, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ben Stone.
You're very welcome.
How are you this week, Ben?
I'm good. Yeah, it's been a good week. I've done lots. How about you?
Yeah, not much.
No. Yeah. Because it feels like ages since I've seen you.
It really does.
I mean, I know we live together, but it still feels like ages since I've seen you.
We're going to talk about musicals this week.
Cool.
Or should I say, we're going to talk about musicals?
No, you shouldn't say. Just stick with the first.
Okay, we are gonna talk about musicals this week. Everything from the stage. I'm razzmatazing.
I feel like everyone just listening to audio is blessed right now.
Musicals, Ben. What are your thoughts?
I love them.
Love them.
All
of them.
No, not all of them. Some of them are like meh. But
what is the best musical?
Oh, that really changes. Like, I've been in Les Mis a load of times, and it's a bit cliche of an answer as well. Les Mis, but it is it's a classic. I like Anything Goes, and I've seen Book of Mormon twice in the West End. That's a great show. That's good. Matilda. I'm just listening off stuff now. Please interrupt me.
All great musicals. I find it quite hard actually to choose a favourite. I think there's just so many brilliant ones out there. Certainly the ones you've listed. Miss Saigon, I would add to that list.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. My parents think it's so Miss Saigon.
Really?
Yeah, they went to see it apparently, and they said they were underwhelmed. Don't quote me on that. I'll probably get a text after this airs saying, "We didn't say that. How dare you?"
You heard it here first. Ben's parents didn't like Miss Saigon.
Thank you. I'll tell you, there's all those big names though. Everyone recognises those names of musicals. I remember a school trip once. I think it was a GCSE drama trip, and we have to go and then do the analysis of the stage and the lighting and all that. And it was a show called Swallows and Amazons.
I've read the book.
Yeah, it's based on the book. Believe it or not. It's not really a musical, but it's got the. I don't think we'll get copyright claim for this, but it's just got like a bit where it just goes swallows, Amazon pirates, swallow. It's just that for like.
So is it kind of a play with music?
Yeah, but it's just really funny. I mean, it wasn't meant to be funny, but just hearing it was funny.
I think, should we start at the dawn of the musicals?
The dawn,
as it were. Should we go back to the beginning? And
should we add a time travel effect here?
We have all the budget.
Yeah.
So
we have no budget.
I have an argument that when it transitioned from opera, and the opera is still around, and good for those who enjoy it. I personally, I can listen to one or two operatic pieces, but I couldn't sit for a 4-hour Wagner opera.
No.
Personally, not my cup of tea, but it may be many of our listeners.
What about a ballet? I mean, I know you watch a ballet, but music to it.
I think I'd enjoy a ballet more than opera. It does strike me though with opera is how incredibly talented those singers are.
Yeah,
they don't, no microphones, no amplification, anything. They are just the loudest.
They're vibrato
beings.
Wow.
I had a music teacher at school who was used to be an opera singer, and her way of stopping the class when we were being too noisy was to just blare out just a proper diva soprano note,
which you then get a standing ovation from the crowd with roses thrown on stage.
I'm going to say no, as we were in year 9, and rather it wasn't roses we were throwing. But anyway, I like to argue. Back to my point.
Back to the point. Yeah. Sorry, what are we talking about this week?
The transition from opera to musicals, and I'm sure I will get lots of differing opinions on this.
Yeah, please do message in.
Was Gilbert and Sullivan. They came along, and they made the transition into the musical that we know today. Yes, there were other composers, other people doing the same sort of thing, but I think Gilbert and Sullivan were the ones who turned it into the musical in the sense that we know it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Unless you want me to play devil's advocate for the sake of a podcast. But no, I Gilbert and Sullivan, they're like a benchmark, aren't they?
And, nowadays we do listen to them and think that's a bit old hat, but
I am a modern major.
there are a lot of words in one go. Gilbert,
yeah, I couldn't do it. You can probably hear on this podcast that I can barely speak like this without mumbling into one.
But I'd say, for me, they were the ones who it went from opera to, I'm going to say storytelling through songs, but that is what an opera is.
Yeah, but the difference between an opera and a musical is that operas, so like Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera are very operatic musicals because there's just constant singing. I mean, it's very confusing how they can't stop and speak to each other. They always have to sing in each other's faces. But musicals have dialogue in between without the speaking bits. So that's like the clinical definition to split the two.
Yeah, it's the spoken dialogue.
Yeah,
that makes a difference. And I think you define Gilbert and Sullivan's work really as operettas.
But it's still moving the direction.
Hybrid on the way towards the musical that we know today. And then I'd say we probably move on to, would you say Rodgers and Hammerstein?
I'm going to be completely honest. Those names have gone over my head.
They did The Sound of Music.
Oh, see, I know
and
the work, not the name.
Oklahoma, South Pacific, King and I.
Yeah, see, I know the music. I just names go over my head.
They were an next big thing in musicals. Sound of Music, still a beloved. Well, all of them still beloved musicals, but The Sound of Music, I'd say, still up there. One of my mum's probably one of her favourite films. And then we move on. Well, this is a whistle-stop tour. And once again, I'm learning a lot. Our usual disclaimer of we are not experts. So if we have missed out your favourite musical composer or musical, we just don't know enough. Or we just haven't. We will come back to musicals.
Just wait until I mention Tim Minchin and James is in his happy place.
We will, we will do another episode or however many episodes on musicals. So please do get in touch if there is a certain person or type of musical you want us to talk about. But for now, I think we should then jump to a man who divides me internally, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
A lot of key changes. A lot of key changes.
And he was the one who brought around the sort of rock musical.
He's done a lot. He's very varied in his work.
Yeah, and some of it I think is top class. And some of it I would like to have what he was having the day he wrote it. Put it that way.
Have you ever seen the Phantom of the Opera sequel?
Love Never Dies.
Yeah, Love Never Dies.
No, I've never seen that.
No, it's not quite as good as Phantom of the Opera. I wonder what he was thinking when he wrote that.
But so he started off with Joseph, and he wrote that at school with Tim Rice, which makes me feel really sad because I'm now 22 and haven't written any.
But we're on a very famous podcast. What are you talking about?
That is very true.
This is episode 3. We'll have millions of followers.
So he started off with Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, which he has done rewrites of since, but the original whenever it was, 60s, little sort of concept, 20-minute long thing he wrote for school, which is very impressive.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. And I've got to be careful here because I was supposed to be in a production of Joseph at the university, which got cancelled because of the events.
Is there a pandemic? I don't know.
There is a pandemic. And it's fun. It's cheese. But I am going to say something here. It's a kids' musical for schools.
Ooh, I'm just going to let that sit for a while.
It is. I think I hate to say it, but it is. And
are you saying that Philip Schofield's defining portrayal of Joseph is
I'll be honest, I think Andrew Lloyd Webber, were he with me today, would agree.
Well, if you're saying if he wrote it when he was young, then clearly, the best audience that you know is your own audience. So it's not unfeasible to agree with that.
And I think the premise of it is kind of the narrator character teaching a lesson about the story of Joseph.
But there's nothing wrong with sort of bringing a childlike sort of wonderment back to the
not
adult population.
At all. And I think there is the West End version was tremendous from what I've seen of it.
Jason Donovan, Philip Schofield.
Yeah.
Gosh. I've seen Jason Donovan live. It's not a musical. Oh no, it was a musical. It was War of the Worlds. It was in a stadium though.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had to have binoculars because it was really far away. Because
we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But yeah, continuing a little bit. But then when he moved on to Jesus Christ Superstar, I love Jesus Christ Superstar, and that is very epic, and that's a rock album. That's much more grown up. It's a grown up musical, and incredible. The part of Judas is probably one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest musical roles that someone can have. It's intense and it's wonderful, and the songs he sings are lovely.
See, I would argue that. I would say, and this is me going back to, and I feel like I shouldn't be saying this because it is a bit cliche to go with Les Mis, but Valjean and Javert, those two roles, I'm speaking from a male perspective, obviously, are insane, and like Valjean has got such contrast in his songs, so he can hold you on the point with Bring Him Home, and it's really, it's like you just edging closer to the stage because it's so beautiful, and then sort of the belting out in the One Day More and all that, and the sort of pain that Javert goes through. I would argue your point.
I agree with you, and I think, and I'm by no means would I say that the Les Mis, parts are, anything less than as you've described them, but I just like Jesus Christ Superstar, and I like it. I like Phantom of the Opera, but there's something about it. It's just a lot, especially the Judas part is just incredible.
My brothers were in Phantom of the Opera, and one of them wasn't in it. They were the stage crew, and they were stuck in the balcony, and he was doing like releasing the spoilers if you haven't seen Phantom of the Opera.
If you haven't seen it, I think it's on YouTube at the moment. Go and see it.
Yeah, on some legal YouTube.
No, I think Andrew Lloyd.
Oh, okay.
That is worth mentioning. Andrew Lloyd has been recently releasing his stuff for free.
Oh, yeah,
online. So go and see what he's got out at the moment.
But my brother was up in the top bit, like letting the body drop down and the chandelier drop. So I like to say he's technically the real Phantom of the Opera. I bet, it was just a cool little, nothing to do with me. I just watched it. It was fun.
And a hello to all the families listening.
Hi.
Let's move on from Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yes, talk to me about War of the Worlds of the musical, because seen the film, heard the radio show, read the book, haven't seen the musical.
I think it was in Cardiff. It was a long time ago. I was very young, and I went with my family, and it was in the stadium. So it was more of it's like when they do sort of concert versions of musicals. But you're watching the musical and Jason Donovan comes out and sings.
Do you know there was a Lord of the Rings musical?
No?
Yeah, it didn't run for very long, but it was. I went round backstage at Theatre Royal Drury Lane and discovered all this stuff. And there was once a Lord of the Rings musical on there. I couldn't for the life of me tell you anything about it.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Well, I've just done a quick Google because we can. And no, it's Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. They had massive tripods on, come down and up and down from the stage, huge tripods in this big stadium. There is one song that you might recognise. Listen to the soundtrack because it's one of those ones where you go, I vaguely recognise that.
Moving on, like I said, we are skipping out a lot of great musicals that we both love, and I'm sure all of you love, but I would like to talk about, before we run out of time, Hamilton.
I'm so glad it got put. I'm doing lots of I'm so glad it got put on Disney Plus.
It is just, it really is it's about a revolution, and it is a revolution. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda was the breath of fresh air that Broadway needed.
I can't wait for the In the Heights is getting turned into a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hamilton has had a lot of praise, quite rightly, and I don't want to just pile on more and more and more.
But you're going to.
But I am going to. I think it's fantastic. And it goes back to this, what we were talking about earlier, about these sort of amazing lead male roles to play and sing. And it once again, although it's all this new, it's hip hop, a lot of rapping, which it isn't seen so much before. It goes back to this sort of archetype of these really, relationship between two key male roles, and they sing some incredible sort of power ballads. And so in say Jesus Christ Superstar, Jesus and Judas, in Les Mis, Javert and Jean Valjean, and then you've got Alexander Hamilton, and Aaron Burr, and unanimously, me and I think you as well, and most of my friends who watch it agree that Aaron Burr is just better.
He's just
as a character. I mean, I'm not going to comment on as a man in real life, but
Dear Theodosia is my favorite song.
Wait
because
for
it's
it's
just
going to be mine.
It's just beautiful. It's just and then when Hamilton comes, it's like, no, I want to keep listening to Burr.
I just think Hamilton's got some good songs, but his songs are just incredible.
But then also, what's great about Hamilton, it's got great female leads that truly get some amazing songs, like the Schuyler sisters. I think in the original Broadway cast, Philippa Sue has an amazing sort of role and numbers to play, and it's great to sort of have such equal sort of numbers and strength wise when it comes to pushing back that sort of typical musical man v man.
What do you think about using historical events and maybe not portraying them precisely as they happened?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
For kind of to create an exciting sort of basis for a musical.
There's a lot of like, oh, this didn't happen like this, or they weren't wearing those shoes at the time, or that.
I mean, in fairness, if you're watching Hamilton and go, this is a bit inaccurate, I mean, I have to break it to you, they didn't rap.
I do have to actually contest that point. They did the first cabinet battle was actually a rap battle. No. Historical accuracy. I think you want to, if you're trying to make something in the period and you want it to sort of stick to reality, then you've got to have sort of loose guidelines. But there's artistic license, and people need to sort of accept artistic license. If they're going to be like very petty about, that act wasn't passed until then, or they're talking about an election in this musical before that happened. It's just enjoy the show, and it's about learning the lessons from that show, and also immersing yourself in that period.
It's only a slightly bit relevant to right now. This is where musicals really differ from a standard film or play.
Yeah.
And that is, you have to mould things a lot more to add the music and the songs and make the songs enjoyable and listening to. And I'd argue, I don't think you've seen this one, but one of the best in terms of accuracy is Six.
I haven't seen Six.
I learned a heck of a lot of history from Six, and I checked a lot of it, and most of it is true. If you don't know about Six, it's a musical that came out a few years ago, and it was recently touring. It's on in the West End and things. Basically told from the perspective of Henry VIII's 6 wives, and essentially they're competing to basically show who had the worst deal being married to Henry VIII. And they sing obviously these lovely songs that are very diva-y and have this modern twist, but the information contained within those songs is very accurate and actually taught me a lot of new stuff. I won't spoil it by sharing everything that's in it, but
I mean, sadly I'm a historian, so I already know everything that happened.
Personally, I will argue that Six for me, is probably, I wouldn't say it's my favourite historical musical or my favourite musical. I'd just say it's probably the most
educational
in
in an enjoyable fashion. What's the next musical when everything reopens? What's the next musical that you really want to go and see on stage?
I want to see Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah,
because I've heard a lot of good things about it. I don't know much about it. I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but I've heard it's very good. So I think I'd say Dear Evan Hansen. How about you?
Well, I've been thinking, when you scroll on Facebook and you just see ads for like stuff, and I search musical stuff normally because of what I do, but I keep seeing ads for Jamie, which I really want to go and see.
Oh, it's everybody's talking about Jamie.
Everybody's talking about Jamie.
Yeah,
because everyone is talking about Jamie, and I do want to go see it. It looks really fun.
Well,
and good.
That's based on a true story, and I hear good reviews. I mean, there are a lot that I want to see, a lot that I want to see again, and a lot that I want to try out.
Roods, Roods being dramatic, but oh well, move on. Hand on heart, Roods changed my life.
So this week we are joined by Rayson, who is the president of the Reading University Drama Society, otherwise known as RUDS. Hello, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. Thank you very much for appearing on the UoR music podcast.
That's all right.
We'd just like to start off just by talking a bit about you, really, and getting to know you. So you grew up, we know you grew up with sort of music. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that for us? What's your kind of experience in music?
Yeah, so I guess I got into music when I was really, really young. I went to a dance school from about the age of, I want to say like 4, but I'm not 100% sure. But from when I was young, and obviously that exposes you to like musicals and things like that. But also, as many people do at school, when you can get like free music lessons for however long, I started taking woodwind lessons and ended up continuing that until I was 16 or 17. And I played clarinet, which wasn't the coolest thing in the world, but I liked it. And I played in orchestras and did exams and things like that. But in terms of things that are actually relevant to like RUDS and musicals, like I said, I was at a dance school where like all the older kids would talk about what musicals they'd seen, and we'd do dances to different numbers, but you wouldn't really pay that much attention. But the first musical that I can really remember seeing was I was taken by my parents to see Wicked when I was about 8, and like hand on heart, life-changing experience. Was like completely obsessed, wanted to be Elphaba, so became obsessed with singing and things, but never really did anything about it. Just carried on with music in the background, just alongside like everything else, like most people do when they're kids, I guess. And then when I was 15 or so, I started actually proper singing lessons and changed my mind halfway through. So I did a few exams in like classical singing, and then I did my higher grades and eventually got my diploma in musical theatre and performance. Then that led me to be a freelance singing teacher for a while, and then I came to uni, where I'm president of RUDS. So that's sort of a very condensed version of me.
So that brings us quite nicely on to talking about RUDS. Obviously, you're in your 3rd year of university, and you now are the president, but you've been in it all the way through. How would you say that kind of music has been used within the society, and how has that kind of affected your experience with it?
Well, the music in the society is mainly to do with singing rather than performance of any other kind, obviously, because we're a musical theatre performance society, as well as the other side that's just acting, but obviously they don't really have a lot to do with music, so I won't really talk about them, but just like shout out because they do exist. We're not a musical society. But the musical theatre side, it's a massive deal. So obviously not this year because of the current circumstances, but usually we'd have a performing arts showcase, which is a collaboration with I did it last year, I ran it last year, which was a collaboration between different societies where all come together, and lots of those performances tend to be musical, whether that's RUDS belting out a musical number that we prepare like for the term leading up to that, or like rums coming and performing, or band society, singer-songwriter, where everyone gets a chance to showcase their talents. We also do things like, at the minute, we're running, which is very strange, but we're trying to adapt to the circumstances, a virtual cabaret. So still providing people with a chance to come and sing and perform and have that outlet, even in these weird times where we can't meet as we usually would. But I guess the main thing is we do usually do a big musical in the spring term, which is a massive project. Last year it was Chicago, but the opening night was the same day that the university got shut down. So that was slightly frustrating. The year before it was Our House, the Madness musical, and that was ace. We had a live band for that as well. And because it's all Madness musical, because it's all the music of Madness, it was completely appropriate for the band we had, because we had exactly what we needed, and it just sounded epic, well, in my personal opinion, but it was ace. So I guess that's how we use music, really, and it dictates everything.
Just sticking on that point about the live band, as you know, from the perspective of you as a stage performer, what difference do you think it makes to having a live band in the theatre compared to, say, using a backing track?
So me personally, I'm obsessed with live music. I'm always at concerts, and I just think there's something completely different about experiencing music live. And when you perform as well, you just get energy off it. It can happen to, like, because when we were prepping Chicago, we were using backing tracks because it's such a big score and such a big band orchestra really that is needed for that it wasn't really possible. But for Our House, because it was music originally written for a band, it was a lot easier to coordinate that, and it just lifted the whole performance, because it just brings a completely different, I don't know, like a completely different edge to it, where it just takes on a whole new level. And that's what, like, because the music goes from just sort of blaring to like actually filling the room, and that affects the audience, but it also affects the performers. And you feel like you need to give more while you're on stage to match the band, because, I mean, also credit to the band, because they were amazing, that they started performing and we were all like, right, okay, we need to actually do this properly now, because we need to match where they are. So I think it made the world of difference.
Well, I was going to say, I remember going to see that performance of Our House. It was it really did blow me away. So I can agree with you on that.
Do you think kind of it allows you as well, because you've got a band there who are, you know, living, breathing, and performing at the same time as you, it allows your performance on stage to kind of you're able to kind of you know, you can both adapt to each other, so your performance can kind of grow as the band sort of grows, and it allows a more organic performance, I suppose you could say.
Definitely. I think they inform each other, and I think you can't really have one without the other, because the band can't exist on its own, because we might have done something like directed a scene slightly differently than how it comes across in the original play, and the band needs to match that. Or actually we do something and then the band comes along and plays the music, and we're like, well, that is what we want, that sound, so we need to change what we're doing on stage to match that. So they have to coexist, rather than like the band can't be over there and we're over there, if that makes sense.
Well, what's that feeling like, that first, because I've done a few shows, but it's been a while. What's that feeling like when you do the first sort of full dress run, lights are on the stage, the band is there for the first time? What's that feeling like?
Well, bear with me, because we laugh because it's like, Rudd's people are so dramatic, but it's true. But it's genuinely one of the best feelings in the world, especially with the live band. I remember really vividly the first time we performed the title song, Our House, with the band, and we were all on stage in 360, and it was just like, it's all the things, because usually by that point in the process you're in tech week, so I say pretty much everything is going well. It never is, but like, it's like a duck, you know, like where everything looks great on top, but your legs are going underwater. But it's just the best feeling in the world, because it's just like relief and, oh my God, this is so good. And because like I said before, it's just when everything I think it's that moment of when everything comes together and you're just like, this is what you feel like you're made to do, and then we perform the show and it's brilliant.
I'm going to go slightly back to something you mentioned earlier, and we're going to obviously have to talk about what's going on in the world right now. How
what's going on in the world right now, James?
We know what's going on in the world right now. How are you finding trying to adapt society, much like we're finding with music society and running music ensembles? It's just it's something that's so reliant on being in person, being in the room with other people. How are you finding that adapting to try to make at least something for your members to take part in?
Difficult, to put it politely. We're really trying, and we've got, so in terms of the musical stuff, we've got the cabaret night that's running virtually. We're taking part in another society's showcase, Rutam, where we're showing a number from that the Chicago cast of the last academic year has created, and we're also in the process of creating one now. We've also got the Rough Sketch Festival, but that's just acting based. And they're all in the process of being created now and will go live at some point over the next few weeks. But it is like very obvious that something is not there. And because of the nature of like I'm sure it's the same for you lot with Rums, that like the amount of rehearsal it takes to go into these performances would mean that usually for Ruds, we would be in rehearsals or in meetings or it, like whatever it is, 4 or 5 times a week. Like it would be more unusual to have a day where there was nothing Ruds than when you had something to do with Ruds. So having not met as a group for months and months, I don't even want to count how many months it must have been, it's really obvious and you do feel it, and it makes me excited for the day where we will be able to do that again. But it's just, whilst cabaret is providing, or I hope it is providing, that outlet for people to do that within their own homes and safely, which obviously is the most important thing at the moment, it's just not quite the same as like sitting in a room and singing all together or performing all together, because that's what we love to do and that's why we do it, and that's why we dedicate so much of our time to it, because it's what we all end up being so passionate about.
Yeah, no, I can fully appreciate that, because we're going through exactly the same emotions. From what you've seen, and maybe it could be personal experiences, or people you've spoken to, how important do you think Rods was in terms of making your experience at the university, just not more bearable, but having, in terms of mentally and mental health, how important was it to your university experience?
Ruds, Ruds being dramatic, but oh well, move on. Hand on heart, Ruds changed my life. It's because obviously, like I said, we spend so much time in rehearsal, we spend so much time with each other, you end up, the people become family, and you all have these things in common. So then even when you've got like one day out of the 7 days of the week off, you're still around each other's houses, and you always end up in someone's kitchen singing, like badly, but you're still singing. And personally for me, it's just been a complete, like, it's being part of Ruds has been like the the like informative factor of my university experience. Like when I think back to university, the first thing I will think about is Ruds. So the fact that it's not really here at the moment, it is here, but it's not what it should be, is really, really difficult. Because it's usually the thing that gets us all through. It's usually the thing that, like, when things are really difficult, it's fine because you know that at 6 o'clock you're going to be in some random room in Edith Morley rehearsing the musical, or you're going to be, the same applies for the people that like just do the plays and stuff. But I've spoken to other people about it and they've agreed with me, so I hope it's not just me being overly emotional about it all, but it's made the world a difference to me. I can't really think about like I can't picture what my university experience would look like without Roods, because I went to my first Roods event in like welcome week in my first year, and up until the pandemic, apart from like when we were on holiday and stuff obviously, but I don't think I went a single week without being in a room full of Roods people.
You talk about that feeling of the first rehearsal you go to. I remember you just walk in and you're in that room with, these are my people. These are people who share my interest. They're my kind of people. And it's just that feeling of you meet so many people at university, and you get put in halls with random people who aren't necessarily your cup of tea or don't necessarily share your interests. So to go and find that space where it's just people who are there to do the thing that you love, that is quite a feeling.
I'm going to take this conversation down a notch. So I'm going to ask a very important question though. Favorite musical?
No, I can't. That's like asking someone to pick their favorite child. Like, I don't know. I would have to say Wicked was the one that I saw and was like, what is this? I want to do that. So I'd definitely say Wicked. A more recent one that I've seen is Come From Away, that was just like, it ended and I realised that I think I'd been holding my breath for about an hour and a half because it was just phenomenal. But I could go on and on about what my favourite musicals are. I could probably give you a reason for every single musical that exists why I think it may possibly be my favourite. But Wicked and Come From Away are definitely ones that stick out.
Let's try this one. It can be one you've seen before, one you haven't seen before, but whoever it is comes on the telly and says, right, today everything's open again and you have the money's not an issue, you're going to go and see a show. What are you off to see?
Wicked. Yeah.
I am gonna move the conversation on because I would happily sit and chat about musicals for a long time, and I'm pretty sure you would too. What is the kind of the next steps for M? Where are you seeing yourself going in terms of performance and music? Not necessarily, if it's going to be a career or not. Just, regardless of that, where do you want to see yourself going with that performance side?
Well, I hope it's something I'll continue to do until I physically can't, in whatever form that may be. But I guess it's kind of related to careers, that I want to be a teacher. I was a teaching assistant and a freelance singing teacher before I came to university. And the reason I came to university was so that I could eventually go and do that properly. And I want to be an English teacher and a drama teacher and promote that in schools, because it gets kind of similar to my experience with Roods, as even more so at school, because like I like being at university, but I did not like being at school. And the school plays and the school musicals were a safe space and were sometimes the only reason why I would like want to go into school, because I knew I had musical practice in like after school or at lunchtime. So I just think it's so important and someone's got to do it. So I will.
Yeah. And, speaking as a teaching student myself, I think we're very almost blessed in a way that we get the opportunity to be the ones to spark that passion and that interest in our students that we remember by, there's always that one kind of, there's something you did at school, or a teacher did something with you at school, like introduced you to some music or was directing a show, and that was kind of one of the things that kind of went, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this music thing. And to feel like we can be the ones to do that, and you're gonna be able to do that with your pupils, you're gonna be able to direct maybe a show in the school, and at least one child on that stage will stand there and go, because I've done this show and because Miss Rayson has given me this opportunity, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And that is quite something.
Making me feel bad about my degree choice again, James.
Teaching is the best career, Ben. I've told you this many times. So just for everyone at home, just let us know what you've got coming up.
So we've got the Ritz Cabaret, which is due to go live on, we think, our YouTube channel, but it'll be on our Facebook page and stuff as well, on the 27th of November, we think, but it's kind of still a work in progress. And the Rough Sketch Festival which is original writing by some of our members and then being performed by other members, is due to go live at some point during week 11. It's just being premiered on those days, but then it will remain there forevermore.
Is there anything else that you are burning to talk about? Any sort of soapbox moment that you want to have?
I guess the only thing I would say is that if anyone is listening because they're interested in joining a society, but obviously circumstances are so different at the minute that I understand it is so difficult to gauge what's going on or who you need to talk to or what you need to do, it applies to everyone. Obviously, I can speak for RUDS because that's the society I lead, but I imagine it's the same for RUMS and for any other society, especially those that aren't sports, because it's slightly different the way it needs to access, because obviously sports have had some sessions run, whereas we haven't really. I would just say go for it and get involved, whether that's with us at RUDS or at RUMS or anything, because it can be the thing that changes your university experience. And it is so important to do things at university outside of your degree, because you're not just here to get a degree, you are living here as well. So drop someone a message, get involved, like a Facebook page, like an Instagram page.
And I would just add to that, it can be hard as a fresher because at the moment you can't go in person really to these things, and so it must be so daunting to be invited to these Zoom calls and to have to go in and show yourself in there.
Definitely, but as the person that's sitting on the opposite side of that, and I can speak for all of my committee in that we just want you to join in, and we just want the society to grow, and we're worried about graduating at the end of this year and not leaving RUDS behind for years to come, because it's been so important to us. So it's a lot, but we really want to get people involved, and I imagine it's the same for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same. You just got to remember that you're going into like we said earlier, you're going into this space of people who are exactly the same
people.
mindset as you when it comes to this thing you love. So yeah, just go in, and everyone is lovely.
They don't bite. No, and
they can't bite.
It's on Zoom.
Yeah,
it's a
social distancing,
extra safe meeting.
And it's just keeping in mind as well that we sit here acting like we know what we're talking about, but we're only third years. 2 years ago we were the people walking into the rooms and going, I don't know what this is, but I think I want to be part of it. So you never know where it's going to go.
Our ethos for this show is we're not experts.
We don't know what we're doing, and we've been given a podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, come and show us what we're supposed to be doing.
I stand in front of concert band with my hand, waving my hand about, going, I have no qualification for this, but it's fun.
So thank you very much, Em, for chatting to us and appearing on the UoR Music Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries.
So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for everything that RUDS have got coming up or that is already out. You can find it on their Facebook page. It's on YouTube, and you have all the social medias.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram. So go and give them a follow. So
they'll be linked in descriptions and everything.
And that. So go and give them a follow and keep up to date with everything they got coming up. And if it sounds like your cup of tea, it probably is. So go and join it. Lovely. Thank you very much, Em.
Thanks.
That's it for this week. Thank you very much for listening and/or watching. Thank you very much to Ben.
Well, it's the least I can do.
For your...
This is my community service. Yeah. And if we missed out a musical which you really like, which we probably did because of time, let us know. Send us in your favourite musical.
But in general, if there is anything you'd like us to talk about, please let us know.
We're scraping the barrel. We're 3 episodes in and we're scraping the barrel.
No, we've got plenty more in the pipeline. But if there is anything you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. We're going to cover a whole range of things. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week on the Your Music Podcast.
Bye-bye.